Okay, good afternoon. Here we go. All right, good afternoon. My name is Rob Abowitz. I'm from the Office of Residence Life.
And my name is Brian Woodruff. I'm from the Campus Services Center.
Thanks to Mark Pontius from the Parent and Family Programs Office in the Division of Student Life for setting up this webcast. Mark will be reviewing your questions and passing them to us to address after our brief presentation. So please use the chat function at the bottom right corner of your browser to submit questions. We have a lot to cover. Including room assignments and changes, online resources, and all the details for move-in day. And Brian is going to begin.
All right. Well, as you know by now, new students have been sent an email notifying them that the room assignments are finalized. And we are still working on a small number that we're still finalizing. And so those students, if happen to be one of yours, should have gotten a notice that those will be coming over the next few days, that we're finishing those up. In the email, they were prompted to log into their online housing account, which is where students conduct much of their business related to living on campus. So this website shows students' room assignments, mailing address, the dimensions of their rooms, and roommate information. There's also a link within that page, the room information page, if you need to request early arrival for housing is something as well, which we will talk about a bit later, I believe, as well. So the email also included their arrival time for move-in day, which we'll touch on that here in a bit as well. On that page, you'll see directions on the main login page where there's some important announcements. Students can change their meal plans if they'd like. If that's something they'd like to do, they can go in to do that. I want to talk a little bit about, and just on the meal plan piece, they can continue to change the meal plan using their housing application, which they get to by clicking on Register for Housing. Again, all these directions are in a little announcement there on that main page. They can do that up until the first day of the semester. And then they are allowed to change their meal plan for spring semester if they'd like, and there's a little slightly different process for that, and we'll have all those announcements. Those details are always on our website and will always be on this housing portal, directing them of exactly how to do those different things. So this is an important website to go to. You can get to it by going to miamioh.edu/housing is a great place, and you'll see a link to it there. That's usually the easiest way to find it, is to go to that website, which is our main public website, and click the link that says log into housing. So I want to talk just a few minutes about room changes. At this point, the room assignments are finalized for those of you who have received them. There may be a few tweaks made here and there under certain circumstances, such as disability accommodations and compliance and such. But if a student, for any reason, wants to make a change to their room assignment, we do ask that they wait until the second week of school, at which point they could speak with their resident director to request a room change for any reason. And as we talk a little bit about pre-arrival, there are a few things that we suggest that students do prior to moving and arriving on campus. The first thing is to communicate with their roommate. Even if the roommate is someone they don't know, they should still communicate with them about what items, or I'm sorry, even if it's someone they don't know or they do know, it's important to communicate with them. They don't want to duplicate items they would bring and things like that. So we encourage that. They can also begin the process of building that respectful relationship with regular communication. And we do have the name and email address of the roommate on that housing room information page. Things to bring. Obviously, students will start packing for college soon. There's two websites to go to that I want to draw your attention to. The first is the housing website, where you'll find a link to frequently asked questions. Again, this is that same website where you'll find access to that portal as well. This page also has answers to questions like, what should I bring to campus? What should I not bring? Things like that. The second helpful website is through the Office of Residence Life, which contains the regulations for on-campus living. This includes a list of prohibited items in the residence halls. Of particular note is the complete prohibition in that document of candles, incense, and candle warmers on campus. Even the no-wick candles and wax warmers are prohibited. We want students to avoid the potential $500 fine issued by Oxford Fire Department for anyone who possesses a candle on campus or who tampers with their fire safety equipment. So please take that very seriously and don't bring those things.
Okay, now let's talk about move-in day. Most students will arrive on campus on Thursday, August 22nd, 2019. Students who live in Emerson and Hepburn halls should move in on Wednesday, August 21st. We do this to alleviate traffic in 2 areas of campus that have typically experienced significant backups in the past. In terms of arrival time, as Brian stated earlier, students' arrival time was noted in their email from the Campus Services Center. If you're not sure, the chart listed here shows how we determine the arrival time so as to spread arrivals throughout the building throughout the day. The plan for move-in day is to get you as close to your residence hall as possible so you can unload your vehicle. Students go inside to check in while family members unload the vehicle. Then you should immediately move the vehicle to parking away from the residence hall so others can pull in and unload. We ask that you not leave your vehicle unattended at any time during drop-off. If you follow the directions of the police and the physical facility staff that are stationed all around the buildings, they have an area where you pull up and their staff and student volunteers are there to help you unload and to move things right into the building. If you pull up to a side of the building where that station doesn't exist, then you're kind of on your own to move in. You may do that, but it might be more efficient to kind of wait in the line with the cars and to move right up to that spot where they are unloading. There'll be, on move-in day, there'll be volunteers, upper class students, and the physical facilities department staff available to help you move your belongings in. Now, we can't guarantee that you'll receive assistance, but there's going to be hundreds of students and staff helping across campus. After your vehicle is unloaded, you must move it to remote parking. In almost all cases, there's free parking in designated areas or garages just a short walk from the residence halls. In some cases, there'll be a van shuttle all day to take students and families back and forth to remote parking. But again, most of the options are walking distance, 1 to 2 blocks from the residential quads. Again, please do not park adjacent to the residence halls. Vehicles are not permitted to block any dumpsters near the residence halls while you're unloading because the dumpsters need to be emptied several times on August 22nd. Also, you can help with recycling by not putting empty boxes in the dumpsters, rather collapse empty cardboard boxes and neatly pile them behind the dumpster to be picked up by campus recycling. We appreciate your help with that throughout the day. Many parents, dining and hydration here. Most of the dining halls will be open when you arrive on campus. Students may use their meal plan and family members may pay cash or use credit card. Also, we'll have hydration stations outside of the buffet dining halls where we'll give away water on move-in day. And just ask the staff where that closest dining hall is. You can find it on the campus maps, but everybody who's out and about that day will readily direct you to the closest dining hall. Many parents wonder about the schedule on move-in day and when they should plan to leave. Students should be ready to join their corridor for dinner on Thursday, August 22nd around 5 p.m. And that's kind of informal. They're just matching up with roommates and corridor mates, and RAs are getting informal groups of people together, and they're going off to the dining hall together. That's informal, but it is very common. Then at 6:30, there are mandatory hall meetings that begin. that are followed by corridor meetings. And then after that, there'll be campus-wide social events and welcome weekend activities start that night and basically keep them busy all night. And then we continue with activities and academic sessions and welcome weekend events on the following day. So the time for parents to head out is Thursday during the day. To help you avoid unnecessary damage charges, please follow these policies when setting up your room. The use of Scotch tape, masking tape, duct tape, and any product with self-adhering strips is prohibited because they damage the walls. Even products that advertise that they are damage-free have caused damage and are therefore not permitted. Putty is permitted. It's also known as Plastitac. It is permitted, but if its use causes damage to the walls, students will be held responsible. So we basically say that the most reliable and least likely to have any damages is using the S-hooks and string to adhere things, to hang things from the wall. We want to encourage you to visit the webpage displayed here, which includes answers to frequently asked questions about move-in day and maps that show the traffic flow for your specific residence hall. Feel free to print the map for your hall and bring it on move-in day. And finally, before we respond to some of your questions, we want to mention a few tips for an easy move-in day and a successful career living on campus. The first is to employ patience. We have years of experience with move-in day, but as you know, when thousands of students and families are arriving on the same day, we'll encounter some bumps along the way. We have a lot of staff and desire to get everything worked out, and we appreciate your patience. We're encouraging everyone to demonstrate flexibility and an open mind. Students should arrive ready to experience new situations and new people. This doesn't mean they'll all need to be bubbly and outgoing and extroverted, but just flexible and open to their new life on campus. It may take longer than others to feel perfectly comfortable, and our staff are here to help if any student struggles to get connected. Students should be ready to learn. As we discussed during orientation this summer, we do not see the residence halls as a haven from learning, rather another context in which student learning occurs. And finally, anytime you or your students encounter a problem that you cannot resolve on your own, please reach out to us. The staff in the Campus Services Center and the resident directors and resident assistants in the residence halls are all here to help. Okay. Now we're glad to respond to your questions. Again, go ahead and type them in the chat box in the bottom right side of your browser, and we'll respond to as many of them as time permits. Brian?
Okay, I've got a couple.
What do we got?
Okay. Okay, here we go. So questions about roommates. So again, want to direct your students to the student housing portal that we mentioned, going to miamioh.edu/housing, click the link for Access Miami Housing, log into that. That's something your student needs to do that with their unique ID and password. And within that, when they click the Your Room information, at the bottom of that page is where they will see their roommate information. So they're going to see the roommate's name as well as their email address. If they don't see one listed there, it's for one of two reasons. One could be they're assigned in a single room, which would likely be because they requested that. They would actually see that towards the top in their room information. It would tell them the room type they're assigned to. So if they see their room type is listed as a double or a triple or a quad, and when they look down at the roommates, they don't see anyone, that would be because we have not yet assigned a roommate to that room. And again, we are still finalizing some assignments. It's possible that just based on who's here and who's not, that there may or may not be a roommate. Sometimes we have a handful of rooms that might not get one, at least not right away. So it's possible that could be happening as well. But we do plan that most students will have the roommates assigned. Let's see here. Move-in assistance there.
There's a question here about move-in assistance on Wednesday for Emerson and Hepburn. The answer is yes, we will have assistance for those two buildings, physical facilities, and a small group of students will be out at each of those two buildings to help with move-in on Wednesday. The question here is, do parents have access to roommates? And the answer is no. Oh, if they have My Miami for Families. I don't believe they do. I think the roommate information is for the students through the student portal, and it's not accessible to the parents. So if the parents want to know the specifics about who the roommate is, have your student log in and share that information with you. Another question for Emerson and Hepburn students who arrive early. Will they have a corridor meeting on Wednesday, or will that be on Thursday? Their meetings will be on Thursday, but we have some programming planned for them for Wednesday night to help them start to get to know each other. So I think given that there'll be a lot of students around in those two buildings, I think the same pattern will emerge where students are going to go to dinner with each other, students are going to participate in some of those activities. There's stuff planned in hall, and then there's a few things going on in the Armstrong Student Center for early arrival students. So we've got some things planned for Wednesday night. So if you're dropping off students in those communities, you should kind of plan on the similar schedule. But then, because we know some of the Emerson and Hepburn students have already made arrangements to arrive on Thursday, we're not holding those official all-hall and corridor meetings until Thursday night when we know everyone will be here. So that's the schedule for Emerson and Hepburn.
All right. A question about those S-hooks to hang things from the kind of the railing that's in the rooms. You can buy those online. I think you can find them if you type molding hook. I think is typically what you could search for that. But also, we sell them in the campus store. We sell them at Ace Hardware. In town sells them. I don't know if Walmart sells them or not. I know Ace Hardware does. So you can definitely still find them in town. Rob, do you know if we typically don't provide them? I don't think so. We don't provide any, but they're pretty easy to come by. In town, I would say.
I wouldn't take them out of the package just yet, because sometimes you get to the room and there's S-hooks all around the molding left by the previous student, and they're just still there, so you get to use them. That's fine. But usually you can find them around the building, but if not, all the stores in town carry them.
Question about hall layouts, blueprint, kind of floor plans online. We do have them available. They're actually only viewable if you're on campus, though, just for security purposes. So it's not real helpful as you're planning ahead, and that is through our physical facilities website. So we don't have them available to view just generally within the housing system, unfortunately. Some of you may have students from the past who had them, and that's just a change that we've had as we've made some adjustments with our systems. If you feel very strongly that you really need to see that, you could give us a call and we can try to get you something. But generally, we find that for most students and families, just knowing the kind of the size of the room and the dimensions of the room really kind of gives the information that's needed. But if you'd like to know any other questions about that, we're happy to help as best we can. We've got a question here about when should parents leave. And I would say quickly after getting moved in. Rob?
Yeah, I mean, we just go back to that schedule that, most students are going to go to dinner in the dining halls with hall mates and corridor mates, so I wouldn't necessarily plan to have dinner with your student on the night of drop-off. That's when I would break away. And if you move in the morning and you've kind of taken care of everything and the room is set up and you're good to go, you can head out. If you want to spend the afternoon with your student, kind of walking around campus, that's a great possibility, and it's certainly worth your while. But for sure, the students are going to be busy in the evening and into the night on Thursday night. There's a question here about that relates to what Brian was just talking about the layout maps. Someone says President's Hall does not have a layout map when you click on the link. I'll look into that link and see if we can't get that fixed. So I don't know. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get that fixed soon. There's a question here, is it okay if they can't arrive until after the assigned time slot? Yes, it is okay. There, those slots we do, and most people adhere to them, and it really helps. You can just tell that the flow during the day is very evenly paced. So if the bulk of everybody are adhering to those time slots, it is very helpful. But if a few people here and there have to go outside of their time slot, either before or after, that's fine. You're not likely going to be turned away. So we use that, and it's very helpful when people stick with it. There's a question here, if attending MADE at Miami, do you still need to do an early arrival form? And this kind of relates to all of the pre-semester programs, is you have to get that information from the directors of those individual programs. There are programs through academic departments, there are programs through the rec center, and of course there's MADE at Miami for diverse students and students interested in supporting diversity. And so I don't know specifically. I would go back to the materials from that program and ask them. Many of the programs do a group submission for the early arrival form, but I would inquire with your specific pre-semester program. There's a question here about shipping ahead of time, especially for our families who are flying in from out of state. Shipping ahead, move-in limit to the number of boxes. There's no limit to the number of boxes, and there is information on, is it on your website, Brian, about shipping to the halls and the address they should be putting? And all those packages will come to our central package center in Shriver Center. And I believe they are still doing the pay for delivery. So there's a delivery service that you can pay for. I don't have the details about the cost. I would go to the package center website through the Miami University's website. Just do a search for package center, and the information should be updated there about what that would cost to get things delivered on campus from the package center to the room.
Yeah, and I know that typically that delivery process tends to be more during the school year for smaller packages here and there. I don't know if if you delivered a number of large boxes and then expected them on move-in day to be moved to the room. I don't know if they'll do that, so that would be something you'd definitely want to specifically reach out to the mail and package center and find out kind of the guidelines and what might be or might not be possible with that. So a question about the website for the move-in information, and we do have that. We can go ahead and put that on the screen again, and it is there. It is the miamioh.edu/FY move-in. So a question about the process for athletes. I'm actually not sure what the question is. A process for athletes arriving a week early, other than maybe
I would just say, much like the pre-semester programs, you've got to get that information specifically from the entity that's hosting you early on campus. So in the case of athletes, there's information that's coming from Intercollegiate Athletics or from the coaches, or from the administrative staff in ICA. The students got to check their Miami email. That's where all that information is going. And if they're not getting that information, I would make a call to the coach, to the athletic department to get that information. That goes for all of the pre-semester projects. There's a new question here for me. I've never heard of this one. This is a good one. I'll see if I can take a guess. Students in architecture need to drop off a filing cabinet in studio. How do they do that? That's a new one for me, but if that's the case, then the studios are located in Alumni Hall, and I would just look on a map and find Alumni Hall. There's a service drive right near there, and you should be able to pull up and unload into Alumni Hall. But I would call the architecture department. They've got a chief departmental advisor and a department chair and administrative staff who can answer that question specifically. But that's a good one. That's a good one.
All right. Question about towel racks, and so I want to let everyone know that we do have towel racks in every residence hall room, and so typically there should be one towel rack for each resident of the room. Sometimes they're on the back of the door, sometimes they're on the wall. They can be in different places, but every room would have one of those for each resident, so you can hang your towels on it. Question about ID cards and access to the hall, and all of that access as far as residence hall, the student room, the meal plan accounts, all of those are going to be on that ID card that you got at orientation. So that's really important. Definitely want to keep that safe and bring that with you. It's very, very important. If in the time since orientation up until now, or up until move-in, if your student has lost that card, definitely make the Campus Services Center located in the Campus Avenue building on the lower level. Make that a first stop before you do anything else, because you're going to need that card. That's what they need to get in, to get food, to get all the things. There is a replacement charge of $35 for those cards, so guard them carefully. But if you do need to get a new one, stop in and see us. Just so kind of on that topic, our office, the Campus Services Center, is open. We'll actually be open. We'll post the hours onto our website shortly, but we will be open the weekend of move-in, as well as the weekend before. So basically the 2 weekends leading up to the start of class, we will be open basically every day. So we know that a lot of students and families are coming back, so we want to make sure that we are available to help answer questions and do ID cards and things like that. We've got a question about how to know if a room has a closet or a wardrobe. It does vary by room. We've tried to capture that information, and we have some of it. We have a lot of it. Some of it may not necessarily show up on your student's room information, but we do have it. And so if that is an important piece of information for you, please feel free to contact the Campus Services Center, and we can likely determine that for you. With as many rooms as we have and just a variety, even within a building, there can be different types of closets and different types of wardrobes. It can vary. But the most important thing to know is that every student will have a closet space of some type, whether it's a wardrobe, an open closet where it's just kind of a little nook with a bar, which is very popular with our students, or if it's actually a closet with a sliding door, a closet with a closing door. They do vary. So we do ask, and encourage just flexibility with that, and knowing that there will certainly be a closet space. All right. Question of curtain rods. Do all rooms have curtain rods in case drapes are preferred? And yes, our standard is that every room has a curtain rod that is attached on the wall. Every room comes with roller shade blinds, which always stays there, but there is also a curtain rod in case you'd like to hang curtains. Okay, a question about the beds. The question is, are all low loft beds the same height on campus, and where to find that? Mostly, I'll put it this way, they actually adjust. So by default, they should be pretty much the same, but they can adjust, so some could have more or less. And we do have a few of our halls have maybe some slightly different furniture, just as we've replaced furniture. Depending who the vendor is, sometimes one hall might be a little different. That information is all posted with the building information on our housing website. So that's at miamioh.edu/housing. And if you were to go onto that website and click the link that says residence halls, you'd be able to kind of track down by your quad which hall your student's in, and there are all kinds of details in there about what kind of furniture would typically be found in that building, the room types, details, things like that. So that would be a place that I would suggest going for that. The move-in time slide, actually I think what I'd rather do on that is refer you back to your student's assignment email letter, as well as if they log into their housing portal, they'll see specifically their requested move-in time. We do kind of have a standard, based on the kind of dividing it out by the building to spread out the flow of traffic, but really the best thing is going to be check your student's letter as well as their account for their specific requested time. And again, if they can't make it during that time, they can come, at a different time that works for your plans. We do ask, though, if they plan to arrive after 5 o'clock, and this was on their assignment letter email, if they plan to come after 5 o'clock on the official move-in day, that they do let us know ahead of time as quickly as possible so we can notify the resident director of the building to make sure they know, hey, so-and-so is still coming, and to kind of plan for that. Okay. What do we have?
We got a good non-housing, non-res life question for us. What is a clicker and where do they get one? A clicker is used by some professors in classrooms. It's through a system called Turning Point, and it enables the professor to do interactive voting, and some professors use it for attendance, and some professors use it for actual quizzes in class that are on screen, and they use the clickers that are registered to them to respond. I've seen professors use it for like immediate feedback, like just to make sure that everyone's getting the concepts that they're discussing. They get them from the campus store, and I wouldn't necessarily buy kind of another brand because they're very brand specific, and I know there's a couple of companies out there. So that's probably something that the student could get within the first few days of the semester, and once they get the syllabi for their classes. I wanted to make another comment because a lot of these questions are coming in about, that it seemed to me like they're coming in about room decorating. So I wanted to kind of pause and give a little unsolicited advice about room decorating. Like there's questions about how tall are the ceilings and how wide are the windows, and how tall are the bed off the floor. And some of this is for very practical reasons, I understand, because you have storage bins and things like that that you're considering bringing. But I would want to give some general advice about room decorating. And that is that we all, and I'm saying we because I'm a parent of a first-year student this year, and we all have to balance between making that room feel like home and feel comfortable, and the other side of that coin is let's not go overboard. For example, there's a lot of, I've been seeing some things on YouTube about people who decorate their room with wallpaper. It's supposed to be non-damage wallpaper, and you can, basically peel and stick it to the wall, and the packaging says, oh, it'll come right off without damaging the walls. And we've seen students have to pay $150 to have the whole room repainted, and even more in the cases when it damages the drywall to do that. So in some cases, less is going to be more. Certainly, we shouldn't be bringing lumber and circular saws and things like. We don't want you building things specific for the room. It kind of feels too much. So I want to, I appreciate these questions, and I appreciate what it communicates to me is that everyone's thinking we want to help the student make it feel at home, and that's great. And I want to make sure that we balance that with, reasonableness on when you're decorating these rooms. Another perspective on that is that at the end of the year, every year, we have an event called ShareFest. And this is an opportunity for students moving out of the residence halls in May to donate their still useful belongings to basically the area agencies. We've got a number of agencies that collect materials and use it for their clients, or they resell it to do funding for their agencies. It's an initiative called ShareFest, and during ShareFest we collect thousands and thousands of things that I imagine students are like, I wish I would have known that I never was going to use that. It's the plastic rolling bins, the upright lamps with the plastic, lampshades. It seems like there's hundreds and hundreds of things that are being given away. So, maybe, a strategy is to get some of the basic stuff, have the student live in the room, and then they can do a run to Walmart. Our bus goes to Walmart, and they can hop on the Butler County Regional Transit Authority, the BCRTA, which they can ride for free with their ID, and they take the 6-minute ride out to Walmart, and they can get the things that they then know they need, as opposed to filling a room with stuff that they might not need. So that's my little spiel on that. All right, here we go. And in that, we have more questions about, name the hooks again. They're often called molding hooks, M-O-U-L-D-I-N-G, molding hooks. And you don't want to get, if you go into a hardware store and say, I'd like an S-hook, they might give you a curvy S-hook like that goes on a chain. You don't want those. You want molding hooks. And here's a picture of that. Let's see if I can't bring that picture back up, since people have asked. There's a molding hook in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Do any of the rooms have built-in safes? No, we don't have safes. It's been discussed, but we've just learned that there's not enough request for that. In general, I would advise students to keep their room door closed and to keep small portable valuables out of eyesight all the time. There are some students who bring prescription medication to school, and we advise them to keep them out of reach of other people, because those can also be problematic. In some cases, the health center can advise you on getting a little lockbox. So it's not something that gets affixed to the wall, but it's something that you can put any valuables, including prescription medication, in, and you keep it in your drawer, in your closet, so that it's safe, but it's not affixed to the wall. Question about bringing small tools to assemble things like shelving for around the fridge. If you're bringing little furniture things that need such, yes, I would bring small tools, but every hall has a small tool kit. So if you need, a last-minute thing, you can ask an RA if you can borrow. But if you know you're bringing something that requires a little bit of assembly, yes, I would bring the means to do that.
All right, we got just a few more questions here. Thanks for the participation and all the good questions. Printers, question about printers. Printers are not available in residence halls. We don't have them there, but we do have pay-for-print opportunities in various labs on campus, in the library, I believe, and places on campus where you can use your ID card and your Moolah account to pay for printing and copying and things like that. Of course, students can also, if they expect to be printing, can certainly and be encouraged to bring a printer, a small one. The only caveat to that is that we ask that they not be wireless, or if they are wireless, that the wireless feature be turned off and they be actually connected with a cord. And that's just because it can actually cause some disruptions with the Wi-Fi and the networking in the building, and we certainly don't want anything that would interfere with Wi-Fi. I know about that myself. And then the last question I've got here is about shuttles, particularly to Walmart on the first weekend. I'm not sure there'll be a Walmart shuttle. There may be. I'm hearing yes, maybe, on the first weekend, but would definitely encourage you go and check out the BCRTA website, and that stands for Butler County Regional Transit Authority, and that is who operates our campus transit. So check their website out. Again, that's BCRTA, and you could look for the routes that are related to Miami University and Oxford. Any questions, you can always reach out to them directly as well, and they can answer that for you. And it looks like we have one more question coming in, and that is about, yes, about TV. So we do have, for our cable in residence halls, is Philo TV is what it is, and that is basically internet TV, so streaming TV. And the best way to be able to get that is going to be with a Roku. So a Roku device for the streaming TV, that is what is recommended for that. I believe we do sell them at our campus store, but you could, of course, buy any Roku device in your store of choice and bring that as well. Question about adjusting bed height.
Yeah, the question is, are tools needed to adjust the bed height? And the answer is no. It's kind of a hook that goes into a peg in a track on the bed frame, and you might need to kind of give the bed a little shimmy to loosen that connection, but no tools are required to adjust that height. And that's on pretty much all of the beds across campus have that adjustable height. So no tools are required. All right, we got maybe one more question coming in, and then we're going to refer you to websites and email if you have other questions in the coming weeks. How do they know if the room has the over-desk shelving?
So the old hutches.
Yeah.
Very few of our halls still have those. That was something with our older furniture that we had, kind of a hutch on the desk. But what we were finding is that students were preferring kind of smaller furniture that can be moved and be more flexible, just for their needs and how times change. So I believe we have a hall or two that might still have those, a handful of them. But I'm actually seeing maybe head shaking that we may not have them at all. So again, that's just something that, you know, as we transition to newer, improved furniture, that we were hearing students didn't like them. We were getting complaints about having them actually in a lot of cases. So there's that. So thank you again to everyone for taking the time to be here today. And if you're listening to this after the fact, thanks for listening to it. And we are very excited for all of your students to welcome you to campus, and looking forward to a great year. So thank you. Welcome.